How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to week 46 of the 2019 fitness, we're going to call it like a fitness video log. So obviously I am now fully surgerized. Week 46 was the first week after my surgery that I had to do training. I had surgery on the 11th, which was Veterans Day, which seemed fitting as most of my injuries are deployment related, and got home on Monday night from that surgery, and Monday was really just kind of a wash. Tuesday as well. Tuesday was fairly painful. Experienced a lot of, I'm guessing, some day after stuff with my shoulder, probably saying that my shoulder pain was right around maybe a 6 out of 10 almost the entire day. And it would flare up. I have some kids, and obviously when the kids see dad, they want to jump on dad, and that caused a little bit of a headache. They did a good job for the most part of staying off of dad, but every once in a while, you know, kids are kids. So Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday were all just kind of like similar days. I'm actually on convalescent leave. I'm off of work for the next 2 weeks or so, and I managed to actually get one training session in, which we're going to see the footage on. Please stick around after the footage and we talk through kind of what I'm doing the training. I'll talk about what actually occurred in my shoulder. I'll read through some of the doctor's notes. I'll show you some of the photos from the surgery itself, and then I'll talk about a couple pieces of equipment I'm looking at buying to facilitate training around my shoulder, as well as kind of my target for the next 12 weeks of recovery and what my training is going to actually end up looking like. Again, stick around afterwards. I even uploaded some photos from my surgery for you guys to see. Started off with air bike, did 30 seconds work, 20 seconds rest, did that for 10 rounds. The work rounds actually aren't that high because I'm trying to not move my shoulder at all, and it gets painful if I move it. Here you're seeing something I got taught, a little bit of physical therapy that everybody thinks is creepy, but I enjoy doing it to creep them out. And then the main point of everything. So I'm basically modifying the arm from Rogue to work similar to a J squat, but as you can see, it's a lot of effort to kind of set up. So I've got to put the post, the landmine thing on, then I've got to attach the handles corresponding. There's a little bit of a weight issue trying to get weight loaded so it's even on each side, so I don't, basically it's a giant pain in the butt to get set up, which is kind of why I'm leaning towards trying to get a J squat for my gym. But worked up doing sets of 10 to 20 and just trying to get a lot of volume in. I'm supposed to treat this week and maybe the next couple weeks kind of like a deload week where I'm not supposed to stress my body so much. And as you can see, just trying to hit some solid depth, which is an issue because the actual arm is set up too high on the hinge point. But all these are things I'm going to end up working through. And you can see here it's actually kind of a pain in the butt even just to get out of my current setup. Again, leaning towards a J squat. And then this is my heaviest set that I did, and I actually reached failure, but it was just kind of an awkward point in the lift. I ended up just hitting the ground and got stuck in the bottom. But I really enjoy belt squatting. It's nice to be able to do squats without actually stressing my shoulder, and I think that belt squatting is going to be a big thing in my future. Oh, there we go. So that's week 46 training. Obviously just one training day. I was out in the gym though with my training partners for the majority of the week. A lot of that was just kind of sitting here for moral support and maybe giving little tidbits of feedback. But at this point I'm really here as more of a support piece really than a athlete. But that doesn't mean that I'm out of training completely. So I only trained one day last week. Coming in week 47, I'm hoping to get maybe 2 to 3 sessions in. They're going to look very similar to week 46, where it's just going to be a lot of belt squatting, which actually leads me first. What I want to talk about is possible purchase I'm looking at making for the garage gym. Now, belt squats with my current setup are a little bit homemade and maybe not the safest or the most ideal. And I've been looking at a couple different options. One was the Sornex J Squat. I thought that this was a pretty cool equipment from the get-go. I know there's a lot of hate out there, especially if you just go on Reddit and you look at Reddit for a little while. Everybody's hating on the piece of equipment big time. But if you actually look at what it is and how it's made, I think it's a pretty well-priced item. It might be a little bit steep at $500, and I get that it's just a jammer arm attachment, but there's a lot of pieces like bells and whistles, like the fact that the arm automatically retracts, or not the arm, but the leg automatically retracts when you pick it up. It's kind of a cool piece that took some engineering. That's what you're paying for. You're not necessarily paying for the equipment. You're paying for like the cost of making the equipment. You're paying for the cost of developing the equipment, the cost of manufacturing the equipment, and let's not forget that Sornex is an American-made company, which is something that's near and dear to my heart. So I'm leaning towards the Sornex J Squat, but I'm also considering the Squat Max MD as well as the Rogue Rhino Belt Squat. I think that the advantages with the J Squat are that it takes up almost no additional space in the actual gym, and that uses existing pieces that I already currently own. Sornex has said that they would drill their J Squat attachment so that it uses these 5/8 inch pinholes instead of the 1-inch pinholes that come standard on their equipment. So it doesn't take up much space. It uses existing pieces that I already own, and it seems like a pretty versatile piece of kit. The disadvantages are that there's, I guess, some shear because it's a lever style, and also the felt load is only 60%, so you end up loading a whole bunch of weight but not actually feeling that much of the load. So I want to try to do some other style of lifts. Like I want to try to see if lunges are maybe something that I can start to work into a belt squat program. And both the Squat Max MD and the Rogue Rhino both have a small platform that wouldn't really allow you to step off the platform in order to do those kind of movements. I'm still not sure if it would end up working, but I'm really limited. I can't load anything onto my shoulders for the next, like, I think 8 weeks. So I need something, and the J Squat seems to be where it's at. So the big reason I can't do that is because what I ended up having, and I'm going to read from my doctor's notes. In 2013, I got back from Afghanistan, and I had been complaining about shoulder pain towards the end of my deployment. When I actually got back, I had a small amount of atrophy actually on the right-hand side, and they ended up blaming it on just like a pinched nerve. I went to physical therapy for it. It got better, sort of. It was always kind of there. Like I always felt the pain. It just got less painful. And so from 2013 to 2016, I just kind of like lived with the pain. Military medical just called it tendinitis, and they gave me Motrin and basically told me to Motrin it out. And in 2016, my first daughter was born, and I'm right-handed, and so I kept on holding my daughter in my right hand. And that started making it worse and worse and worse. And so if you look at my medical records, you can see I started going again in 2016. And again, they just call it tendinitis. They gave me some Voltaren gel in 2016. And then we fast forward to 2019, and I started complaining about it again. And I went into my new doctor's office because I PCS'd. I moved down to Texas. And when I walked into my doctor's office, again, just different doctors, I guess they see different things. But she said that that didn't really sound like tendinitis. What I was complaining about, she said it sounded more like some sort of tear. So she ordered some imaging, and the initial imaging showed a posterior inferior labral tear, which most people have at my age anyways, but it was a little bit more significant. And it was referred for orthopedic surgery. I happen to live in Wichita Falls, Texas right now. So I eventually found Dr. Sumant Krishnan, who is probably the foremost shoulder doctor in the United States, if not the world, just through like word of mouth. I was just asking around, like, so who's the best? Like, I want someone that specializes in athlete recovery, athlete surgery, because I'm not interested in getting back to like 70%. I'm interested in getting back to 100% because I have a lot of really big goals when it comes to competing in Strongman. Ended up finding Dr. Krishnan, got my referral switched over to Dr. Krishnan, started traveling to Dallas, and in June, he ordered more imaging. I think my MRI probably took 90 minutes, and they had to do with contrast, so I got like the whole needle in my shoulder while they x-ray it, which I'm a bomb tech, and so that was like super cool to me to watch. But anyways, what they ended up finding was there was a right shoulder posterior labral tear with posterior rotator cuff weakness. The way he explained it to me is basically my labrum had a pretty severe tear down by the bicep, and it actually called into question whether or not the bicep was fully attached. Ended up in the surgery that it was fully attached, and I'll show you the images here in a minute. But what they did find was that my rotator cuff, I think there's 4 like points of contact that it hooks up to. My number 2 point had a 2 centimeter by 2 centimeter hole that had been torn out of it, and so that was actually the cause of a lot of my weakness and instability in my shoulder, as well as the pain, and I kept on seeing that when I would hold my daughter. So again, had those injuries since 2013, and if you look here at the pictures, you can actually see the orthopedic pictures. I'm going to put them up on the screen while I talk, but they ended up, the bicep tendon was fine, and they actually put some tension on it to show that it was fine. There was a little bit of bone spur that they had to clean up, and they cleaned all that up. And to be honest, I'm not really sure what I'm looking at on a lot of these, just kind of gory looking images. Then you can see the 2 centimeter by 2 centimeter hole in my rotator cuff tendon, or if I'm speaking wrong on that, I apologize. I'm not a doctor, I'm doing my best to understand this, but basically what they ended up doing was taking this like fishing line looking stuff, and they basically sew it back down. So there's no bolts, there's no screws, there's no like crazy foreign material like that. It's actually just this rope looking stuff. It actually looks like climbing rope. And then the idea is that will eventually, obviously, everything will heal back down, and then that will dissolve, I think, naturally within 18 months, I think. So I have that support there. The final point of this video, my goals going forward are basically just to, 1, I want to maintain or cut down body weight just a little bit. Maybe cut down to 195, but I want to stay right around the 195, 200 pound weight, but I don't want to be fat, so that's going to take a lot of diet control. The second thing I want to do is I really just want to strengthen my core and my legs as much as I can. That's where that J squat I think is going to come in handy a lot. So basically just a lot of J squat work, a lot of stability work. It's going to be a lot of high repetition, lower weight. So some of the stuff I'm not used to. And I also need to work into some conditioning a lot more than I was doing before. So I would imagine that the air bike is going to be seen a lot in my future, and we'll end up seeing where that goes. But I appreciate you guys watching my video. I know this is a longer training footage video, and a lot of it wasn't training footage. But again, I appreciate you guys, especially those of you that are new to my channel. If you could, please subscribe. It helps me out if I can see subscribers coming in and I start to see watch hours come in. It makes me feel like this is something that's actually worth doing. I'm all about the garage gym community, and I'm all about making progress. But again, I don't know if anybody's actually watching if you guys don't subscribe, if you don't hit the bell, and again, if you don't watch my footage all the way through. But I appreciate you guys watching week 46. I appreciate you guys watching my medical update. I expect to see more of these come down the pipe as we keep going through this whole physical therapy process. And I'll see you guys in week 48.